Well, another huge cyber attack has left millions of Australians fearing for their personal data. The data breach of Latitude Financial customers stretches back to 2005. It's the largest cyber attack of any Australian financial institution. Yet the company's provided almost no information to its customers. Joining me now is Chief Strategy Officer at CyberCX, Alistair MacGibbon. Alistair, great to see you. Latitude is facing fines of up to $50 million for negligence. Do you think it has been negligent here when it comes to its customers' private data?
Well, Sharri, good afternoon. I should point out that I am working with Latitude, so I don't want anyone to think I'm completely independent on this. But I have been in this space for a long time, as you know. Negligence is going to be decided by the courts. I work in an industry where my company responds to between 300 and 500 incidents a year.
Yes.
And that's just what my company sees. So as to what negligence is, what standards should be and how people should protect information, I think the real lesson for us as a community is don't be surprised by the next big breach. Don't be surprised by the one after that. And the reason, Sharri, one of the key reasons, is how we credential and identify ourselves, both to the private sector companies that we rely upon and also governments we rely upon. So every time we've got to hand over an identity document to prove who we are, we're creating an opportunity for the next hacker.
Look, we've seen in recent times Optus, Medibank, now Latitude. Why are these companies coming under cyber attack? What actually do the hackers want to do with the data?
Well, largely there are two types of criminals that we see online. Nation states who want to spy on us. They take information, sometimes from private companies too, so that they can carry out whatever their strategic ends are. And we see criminal groups, and they're the prevalent ones, who largely monetise harm. So this crime has evolved a little bit over the last year, but traditionally what has happened is criminals will steal data and then deploy what we call ransomware, which locks up computer systems, and then they contact the victim organisation, whether it's a government or a business, and they say, give us some cash in exchange for the key to unlock the computers, and obviously we'll delete your data. Now, what we've seen in this country for the last 6 or so months is a shift in the way these criminals are operating, which is where they steal information and then usually look to monetise it in some other way.
So you just said a moment ago you've been working closely with Latitude. Can you give us a sense of who's behind this latest cyber attack? Because I note that some of the data, that they've stolen has gone back 10 or so years.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, Sharri, it's not just this incident, but many. It takes a long time, if ever, to understand who it is that's committed these crimes. But it's very important, of course, that the government helps to find those people. That's the job of the police, and the police should be, and I know they are, looking to try to catch those criminals.
So no
because
idea
this is a
at this
crime,
point,
right?
whether it's a hostile nation state or criminal gangs?
No, but if I was a betting person, I'd say it's a criminal because, of course, the vast bulk of the people who steal information and cause harm to us as Australians are criminals. And the internet has enabled international criminals to cause that type of harm in a way that we never saw pre-internet, where from any jurisdiction they can come in and steal things. So because we are collecting so much data as organisations, Latitude's not alone. I mean, the length of time the data goes back to, as you said, is extraordinary, and I'm sure that will be investigated. One of the things to clarify here is that while there are millions of people impacted, and there's no good way to talk about that number of people, it's not just the size of an incident that matters, it's the type of data that's stolen. And in this case, at least half of the population that has been affected, it's probably out-of-date address or landline telephone number or other such things. And then we're left with what is still a huge number.
Isn't it?
You're right. You're right. We're left with then about 7.8 or 9 million people, right? That's a lot of people still. But they're driver's licence numbers. Now, that depends on which state you're in, on whether that's still considered a sort of a loss of your driver's licence. So in most states of Australia, just that driver's license number, the one that I've had since I got my first license at 18 years old, is still valid because the criminal hasn't stolen the additional number that is on that card, which does roll over time.
Yep.
So even those millions of people may not be heavily affected. Okay. And Latitude communicated a few weeks ago with those most affected, which are the ones where the actual copies of the cards have been stolen.
Alistair, I wasn't expecting to ask you these questions because I didn't know you were advising the company. So
I'm really
I don't want you to feel like I'm going hard on you here. But why hasn't Latitude been more? Why hasn't Latitude been more communicative and transparent with customers? Because, you know, as you say, there are millions affected, even if it might just be a driver's license number or an old address. But people are feeling like they haven't had any communication from the company after this massive cyber breach.
Sure. Sharri, it's a valid question. And by the way, don't hesitate to ask me any question. I'll tell you if I'm going to be conflicted.
Trust me, I won't.
I know your reputation well enough to know you're not going to go lightly. So this is a really important question, Sharri, and we see it with every one of these big matters. Remember Optus, remember Medibank, and now we've got Latitude. So why does it seem the communication comes out in a drip feed manner? Well, firstly, because Latitude is a listed company, the rules, the ASX rules, the concept of continual disclosure required them to go to the market, whatever it was, say 2 weeks ago, where they had to say via the ASX website that an offender had been in their systems and had stolen, from what they knew at that time, 300-something thousand people's data. Now, that's what they said on day one. The problem is that as you unpick these events, as you forensically reconstruct what has occurred, which can take days, weeks, sometimes months, you find what I call the blast radius of the event. Now, in this case, I think it's extremely unlikely that the Latitude numbers will go higher. They might even go down a bit, but, you know, fractional, I'd say. So it takes time for them to actually, and for firms like us to help them, sort of reconstruct the outline of the event, and then they go to market again. Now, the trouble of how that's interpreted by the media and by the public is, hey, these people are being shifty, they're telling me one thing, and then, hey, a week or two later. Now, then it comes down to communication. What I do know is Latitude has communicated as best it can with those people they believe were most affected back when they made the first disclosure. Now it's a task of sorting through that data and communicating. If there's anyone that feels at risk or that they believe need to have their driver's licence replaced, Latitude has said that they will pay for that, keep the receipt, and they'll reimburse you. But I think the average person, most of us, should wait for some form of communication to know exactly what data was lost.
What has happened, all right. And there's even talk of compensation, but we'll get to that another day. Alistair MacGibbon, great to have you join me from Canberra. Thank you for your time.